um, the vote for the state of Palestine, and how is that affecting the status quo and affecting the people of Palestine. And by no means I'm against the Palestinian state. As the only thing is, I think that this step was ill-planned, ill-advised, and we could have done better than that. With that, I can start my presentation here. The UN recognition did not change anything on the ground. As John said and as Jason said, the settlements is continuing, even aggressively now continuing. The Gaza situation is worse. The siege is still going on. The land confiscation is still going on. The restriction on movement, the harassment of the settlers, and all that is still going on. Nothing changed. So the Palestinian, and me, one of them, is wondering, how is that helping? How is that the creation of the Palestinian state is helping the people on the ground? And one of the other things is that the facts on the ground that was created by Israel will make it impossible to create a Palestinian state. And I've heard that 10 years ago, there's a human rights activist, an Israeli, that he knows what's going on there. He came to Iowa City almost 10 years ago, Jeff Halper, and he presented what he thinks the evidence that Israel is not willing to compromise, and the Israeli government is planning on the greater Israel state, and the facts on the ground will make it impossible at that time. And at that time, I was a big believer of a two-state solution, and that the Palestinian will able to get their own state. I'll show some of the maps that he showed to convince me at that time that probably what we're looking for is not there anymore. And one of the other reasons that I'm not really convinced of that move is that move came from the PA, which was created by the Oslo Agreement, which is an agreement that's long dead. And the BA had outlived its original purpose. The agreement was that the Palestinian Authority will start getting control of the Palestinian land city by city until a full agreement and agreement on the what they call final issues, like the refugees, the borders, Jerusalem, and so on, be reached. And that period of time should have been about 5 years. And that was 20 years ago. So we should have reached that final agreement long time ago. So my belief is that the Israelis wanted to keep the status quo the way it is, and have the Palestinian Authority be there to give legitimacy to the status quo and the continuation of the land theft, the expansion of the settlements, and the continuation of the occupation. And then one other thing is there was no clear vision from the Palestinian authorities on how that step is going to help, or what's the next steps after that, and what's the plan for that Palestinian state. What is going to happen to the refugees? What's going to happen to the borders? What are the borders? And are we talking about the 1967 borders? Are we talking about the Area C, Area A, Area B? There are so many areas and so many dissections of the land, the historic land of Palestine, that is now all under the Israeli control. So this all questions that people are asking, and there's no answers to them. The only answer we got from the Palestinian authorities when they went to the UN is that we will do this step and then we'll go back and negotiate. But if we're going back to negotiate, then what's the meaning of this step? Does that mean that we have a state on the land that we control now? or is that we just wanted some some vehicle to kind of support our position in the negotiation? Those are a lot of questions that the Palestinian people, and me, one of them, wanted an answer, and we didn't get that answer. And then I think, in my opinion, that this step give the international community a false sense of accomplishment, that, okay, the Palestinian people have been suffering for 60 some years, and now we give them the state that they wanted. But where's that state, and what does that mean to the people on the ground? Didn't change anything. And you see a lot of states, like especially in Europe, that they think that by supporting the vote, they have delivered justice to the Palestinians, which is the second day they went back and continue business as usual, continuing business with the settlements, continued business with Israel, continued providing arms and bullets and for the Israelis to enforce the settlements and enforce the occupation. So this is short of what the Palestinians are expecting from the international community. And in my opinion, the Palestinian state is a solution to the so-called Palestinian demographic threat, because all the Israeli left and Israeli peace camp, they are advocating the Palestinian state because of the Palestinian demographic threat, which is that the growth of the Palestinian people and being the population of the Palestinian will be more than the Israelis within the next 5 years. And to me, this is really racism, because if you describe somebody as a threat because of their race or ethnicity, then this is really against any international conventions. So it just does not make sense that you build a solution based on racism. This is what I guess that's the map that you have in the announcement for this event, and if you can see, before 1948, for the creation of the Israeli state, the land between the Mediterranean and the Jordan River, that's what it was historically Palestine. 5% of it was controlled by Jewish, which is at that time they're part of Palestine. They're Jewish, they're Palestinians. Everybody was living together. They're all Christians, Muslim, and Jews. They were all living under the Palestinian establishment, and there was no people or no religions better than other. They're just and my grandfather was telling me that they had Jewish neighbors, they had Christian neighbors, and everybody were living together before the idea of creating a Jewish-only state. And then in 1947, the UN, which is, I think it's part of the problem, is that decided that they wanted to create that partition to give part of the land to the Jews and part of the land to the Palestinians, which is they gave a solution to a problem that did not exist before, because the people were living in peace and harmony before the idea of a Jewish-only state. And it was 55% to the Jews, which is, at that time, they only controlled 5% of the land, and 45% for the Palestinians. And then after that, Israel, after the 1948 war, Israel controlled 75% of the land, or actually 78% of the land, and left the Palestinians with 22%, which never were actually controlled by the Palestinians. The West Bank was under Jordan. Gaza Strip was under the Egyptian administration. And then finally, if you see, that's what currently the Palestinian Authority is controlling of that 22%, which is the highly populated area of the West Bank and Gaza Strip. So my question is, where is the Palestinian state? Is it the first one? Is it the second one? Is it the third one? Is it the fourth one? I guess that's something that to be determined. And this is the map that Jeff Halber, when he was here, showed and shows how the matrix of control, what he called the matrix of control of the Israeli government on the West Bank and the occupied territories. If you can see this, I'm just going to move a little bit. If you can see, this is what they call Trans-Israel, which is the big highway that goes from the north to south. And if you can see, it is closer to the West Bank than closer to the middle of Israeli proper, which tells you that Israel has been and always been planning that West Bank will always be part of Israel. And this is the area C and B and D, all those areas that some of them, and if you can see the dark areas is the one that under the Palestinian Authority control, and those under Palestinian Authority control only during the day. During the night, they don't have any control over it, and there's a clear instruction that the Palestinian security forces cannot intervene when Israeli soldiers come into those areas. I guess the way forward, or before that, I wanted to say that probably the Palestinian authorities or the Palestinians could have, and instead of going to the UN to get their rights, because the UN, we've tried the UN for so many times, and the UN had failed us so many times. And if we look at the South African model, and we looked at any other struggling nations, they did it themselves. They didn't go to the UN. They didn't go to the US. They didn't go to Europe or the United Nations. There's a lot of tools at the Palestinian authorities or the Palestinians that they can use to end the injustice. One of the things is end the cooperation with the Israeli. The Palestinian authorities now, they have security cooperation with the Israeli government. They have economic cooperation, and this is giving legitimacy to the Israeli occupation or the Israeli injustice that's happening to the Palestinian. And this is one of the things that we could have said, we've been talking about peace agreements. We have been negotiating for 20 years, and what we got is more occupation, more settlements, more injustice, more hardship for the people. So the negotiation ends here. We know what we want, and this is what we want, and we're not going to accept anything short than this. So and then the other thing is, I think it's under the international law, as Israel is responsible for the people that they live under their control. So the Palestinian Authority, in my opinion, is just outlived its purpose and should be dismantled. I don't think there's any reason for the Palestinian Authority to exist anymore. And then let the Israelis and the international community live up to the expectation of bringing justice to the Palestinian people, because the negotiation is going on for a long time, and it's not bringing in anything that was promised from the beginning, and the Oslo agreement is dead. So the Palestinian Authority should not exist anymore, because it's only serving the purpose of continuing the status quo. So the way forward is, the way I see it, is what should be a one state for all the people, regardless of the religion, race, or ethnicity. All the people that they live in the land should live equally and should live under the same rule. They will have equal rights. They will have equal rights, and they will have equal duties under that state. It's going to be a one-man vote one man, one vote, similar to the South African model, with the collapse of the apartheid system there. The black and the white are same under the law, and they are citizens of one state. And then the minorities' rights will be protected by the Constitution. So I guess without any disrespect to anybody, I think that the Palestinian Authority thought that we have a vehicle to achieve what we want, but unfortunately that vehicle needs a lot of work. So with that, I end my presentation.
Now we have time to ask our speakers a few questions about this interesting topic. Your microphones are on and ready to go, hopefully. Okay, the first question, possibly the biggest threat to your legitimate quest for the rights of Palestinians comes from the use of various forms of attack against Israeli civilians by the more extreme factions of Palestinian resistance. It provides cover to Israel and the U.S. in supporting Israel. How do you view these tactics? Are there ways to minimize those effects while still seeking legitimate rights of Palestinians?
Jason, is it for me? Or
Either
doesn't
one.
matter? Okay. Well, that's a good question. You know, I will flip the coin a little bit and ask whoever wrote this question, how do you feel about the Israeli attacks or continuous attacks on Palestinians on a daily basis? What would you call that? For me, I call that terrorist action against civilians and against people who are trying to live their daily living in dignity and protect their belonging. Let's put it this way. As a person who takes, what I would call the Palestinian government route, I deal with them. There is nothing hidden here. Most probably you heard that from my presentation. I was appointed by the Palestinian government and PLO to lead the activities here for the United Nations Palestinian State number 194. So I'm committed to that line, but at the same time, also, as I said, I will flip the coin and say, what would you call the Israeli daily killing of Palestinian innocents? I think killing is nonsense, regardless who is doing that. If we want to sit down and try to talk about some sort of a genuine agreement and lasting agreement that is based on justice, and that is very important, based on justice, I think the Israelis also have to take some responsibility also in this issue. You know, it's very easy. You know, end the occupation. In the occupation, you will not see anything else. You don't, anybody who wants to make peace will not build an apartheid wall. I mean, it's as simple as that. If you really want peace, you don't build an apartheid wall. You don't build a hate wall. Because hate walls does not bring friendship. It does bring hate among both sides. So I will say, I will call on the Israelis also to take their responsibility and stop their daily attacks on Palestinians. Let's just look into January 22nd of this year. Look at the results of the Israeli election. Guess what? I'm going to call the next government of Israel the settlers' government. Because mainly, who won the election? A guy by the name of Naftali Bennett. I don't know how many of you know anything, if you know anything about Naftali. Naftali Bennett got now 13 or 14 Knesset seats. I mean, if you go and search this guy, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. He's an extreme extremist, really now. They're going to make decisions on behalf of Israel, the state of Israel. Let's look at Lieberman. Who is this guy? He was a bouncer in Moldova before he became the Israeli foreign minister. I always tell people, only in Israel, a war criminal become a prime minister. Take Sharon and the history of Sharon, take Shamir, take Begin, and take all those Israeli prime ministers. They were well involved in Haganah and Orgon, that were terrorist group that terrorizes the Palestinians in the 30s and in the 40s and caused a mass displacement of almost 1 million Palestinians in 1948. So if we want to talk about justice and we want to talk about, again, being very objective and look at both sides, I will definitely suggest that people need to look at the Israeli sides who continue to commit crimes after crimes after crimes every day against Palestinians.
I just wanted to add that always the stronger side and the victors write the history. So now because Israel have the upper hand and here in the U.S. they have the support, they're calling the Palestinians are terrorists. And if we go back in history, the British called General Washington and the Patriots as terrorists, but because they didn't win the war, we